from the Deer Range Bureau. This is our first week of the Prep Football Huddle. I'm Jeff Linder here, Jeff Johnson there, KJ right over here to my lower left, and
Howdy
away we
all.
go. Any preliminary thoughts about what's going on this week as far as week one? JJ, you got a big game down at the big stadium.
Yeah, that's what they told me. It's a big game. So City High and Liberty at Kinnick, they're going to play sophomore game prior at, I believe, 5 o'clock, and then varsity whenever, after that, about 7:15, 7:30. So as of yesterday, I talked to Philip Hansen, the assistant principal, last year's AD, got moved up, promoted. Congratulations, Mr. Hansen. They'd sold 4,000 tickets as of yesterday. Yesterday apparently was a good day as far as ticket sales. They're hoping, hopefully maybe to even double that if they can here in the next few days leading up to Friday. $5 for students, $10 for adults. And, they're going to see how this one goes. And maybe, and that's a huge question mark, maybe this will be something that, the Iowa City School District will continue with as far as, kind of rotating west in there as well. Or Mr. Hansen even said, heck, if like a Clear Creek, Amana wants to play, maybe at Kinnick, and maybe this will open the door for more games. At Kinnick Stadium, let's put it that way.
It'd be really neat if there'd be a way that they could do the City High Ames game for that week 2 game that that rotates back and forth the day before Iowa State. It'd be kind of neat if they could do that the day before. I don't suppose that would work very well in Ames because of the turf field at Jack Trice, but that'd be a neat idea too.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe, like I said, maybe this will just be the start of, maybe one or multiple games a year at Kinnick, if it works out that way. So it's all public record. So I can tell you that it was $5,000 to rent the stadium, rent the field. And there was additional costs like for security per MAR and, concessions and things like that still need to kind of be cemented, I guess, from what I understand. But I guess 5,000, that's not a bad deal to play in the big stadium for a year, I guess, even if it might end up costing City High a little bit of money, because it was, I think, it's home game, right? But like Phil Hansen said, I mean, this is just this is all about the kids. He figured, I think it was like, when it was all said and done, 150 of their students, whether they be football players at either level or, managers, whatever, band members, that'd be about 150 kids that'll be involved in, in a pretty neat event in a huge venue. So that's what they're looking at as the biggest thing here. It's all about the kids.
Well, are all the seats one team on one crowd on the west side and one on the east? Or are they all going to be on the west, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, all on the west side. They'll have like a Liberty section and a City High section. So they're selling tickets online right now. I believe you can there will be walk-up available as well. So prices are reasonable as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. Certainly a lot cheaper than what you'd pay on Saturday to go watch a football game there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Will they have access to the locker rooms, or will they have to dress in their school and then go back to their locker rooms back in the respective schools?
I think that there will be some locker room access a little bit there as far as that goes. And as far as we're concerned, of course, we're all about ourselves, right? We'll be in the media. It will be in the press box for website, newspaper people, and obviously photographers will be allowed on the field and things like that. So I think there's some unknowns here on how this exactly is going to work, logistically and everything. But again, I mean, I think it's a great idea. They started talking about this, from what I understand, last winter. And there's kind of been a lot of ongoing discussion between, members of the Iowa Athletics Department, specifically Josh Burka. Got to mention him. He's kind of been the point guy on this as far as Iowa is concerned. And then, multiple people in the City High administration, obviously have been involved in this as well to kind of get this hammered out. And, it's great. It'll be great for Liberty too, obviously, because cross city matchup here, between two burgeoning rivals, I guess. So, I think it's going to be pretty neat. We'll see how it all works out. But again, for the kids, I think the kids will get a blast out of it.
All right. KJ, you've got, I think you kick everything off tomorrow. You've got Iowa City West at Kennedy at Kingston Stadium. Just any preliminary thoughts about that one?
Well, I think this is probably going to be a fun game in the fact that I think Kennedy is going to be one of our better area teams. We'll see kind of how they're going to be. Not exactly sure where Iowa City West is really here to start the season, but kind of excited to see kind of how Kennedy gets started. It sounds like they're going to be strong on the defensive side of the ball again, and it's going to be kind of a similar kind of Kennedy style team that we're used to. They graduated a quarterback that played pretty well for them last year, and just kind of anxious to see one of our top teams here right out of the gate Thursday night. With Coach Brian White and the Cougars. The one game I will say on Thursday night that I think is probably the marquee matchup that isn't our area though. We're gonna keep an eye on what's happening in Western Iowa with Harlan and Lewis Central. I mean, right out of the gate, I know they actually talking to Louis Curtis last week. I think they moved it to Thursday so they could get a specific officiating crew for that contest. Obviously, in my opinion, top team in 4A, top team in 3A. Two title contenders, two rivals going at it. One thing that is interesting, people want to see, I did a little something on officials at the end of last week and kind of the status of officiating right now. There's still, I think they're about 90 short of the numbers from a year ago. Doesn't appear like they'll have any games in question because of lack of officials. Just might mean there's some lower level games have a 4-man crew instead of a 5-man crew. But the thing with Lewis Central and Harlan is they're going to officiate with a 7-man crew. And they're going to see kind of how that works. If that's something that really is doable, and how well that works out in a pretty competitive game with two really good teams. And that might be something we see come about in the postseason. So this game, not only is it a big game between two really good teams, but there are some things on the periphery, especially with the officiating, that we might see changes down the road depending on how this game turns out. So I'm kind of anxious to see how that all plays out, especially having it being like, I know we have week 0 games, but really to have this type of game and some of the things, going on the side, kind of interesting being right out of the gate.
And you bring up a really good point. With the lower number of officials, I wonder if one solution would be to maybe play more games on Thursday or maybe a few on Saturday to, to allow more crews, maybe more games. And maybe that would be a better idea than just bagging some games here and there.
Well, see, and I think that's Louis Curtis also mentioned that he had talked to some officials that we'll be working 2 games on Friday night, 6 out of the 9 regular season weeks. I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand that that's a lot of work, and a lot of officials aren't spring chickens. Obviously they're in better shape than me. But that's tough. And to chase sophomores around for 4 quarters and then have to come back and do that for the varsity game too, that's pretty tough. So you might see that split up a little bit. There might be, some things moved for that. The one thing that I think is interesting, retention is such a issue. And I don't think it's just officiating. I think it's in any walk of life right now. There's a lack of patience, maybe, of, kind of putting in your dues, so to say. People expect, prime opportunities as soon as possible. So you don't necessarily get somebody that will work a certain level for 2-3 years and then, play the long game, so to speak. By expanding the crews, you might give people an kind of satisfy them a little bit by, getting them more experience and working with, top flight officials earlier in their career to kind of bring them along so they do kind of get that, those type of assignments and be able to learn from the experienced officials at the same time. So expanding to 7 might help, even though you talk about lower numbers, it might help retain people because they're actually getting those opportunities with expanded crews. At least that's kind of one of my thoughts anyway.
KJ, you played the game. Just kind of going back to the West Kennedy game. Last year, it was really a back and forth game. It wasn't decided until the very end. Kennedy won that game 27-20. They went on to go 10-1. West went 2-7. How big is it to win game 1? Is that, how big of a tone setter is it?
That's a really good question. I think it can work a lot of different ways. It just depends on, just kind of the mental fortitude of the guys you have. I really think you have to have a short memory and really be able to walk away from the field leaving the result there. But like you said, it really can make an impact. If you come out, you play hard and you still lose, that's something that, it can grow like a cancer. And, it affects your confidence. It can affect your attitude and your effort going forward, thinking, oh, we put in all this work, we still got beat. And then if you don't snap out of it and, kind of rebound, you carry that mentality into the next week and it just kind of builds on top of itself. Likewise, you get that first one out of the gate, especially if it's a really competitive game, a game that, was kind of up in the air and you come out on the winning end of it. That builds confidence. That just kind of propels you into the next week and snowballs in the other direction. So it really can be. Whether that was the case last year, I'm not exactly sure. But it can be. But as a coach, I think you're really trying to compartmentalize each week and to make sure that doesn't linger if you don't come away with a win. If that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
But it's a big one, especially with some of the schedules that teams have. The more you can kind of get out to success early on, the better.
Gotcha. JJ, we'll shift gears a little bit. You went out and you saw Jefferson at practice a week or two ago. Obviously, they've got a lot of work to do. 0-9 last year. I think they've lost 13 in a row. New coach. What did you see out of the Jayhawks?
A lot of running, literally. I got there maybe for the last, 45 minutes of practice, and they went through their regular practice, and then it was lots of sprinting. And I mean everybody, linemen, the big guys, the small guys. So I think, Coach Ed Miles, who played obviously football at Iowa and for a year in the NFL as well, it's kind of trying to build a culture there of accountability, and the cliche, right? Hard work, all that kind of stuff, and giving your best effort. And like you said, I mean, if you might not be the most talented kid, but if you are accountable for yourself and your teammates, and you give your best effort on a daily basis, then you're gonna play for me. And if you can't uphold those standards, then you're not going to play. And maybe it's best that you don't even go out. So, we'll see. It's going to be a young team. There's going to be some sophomores for sure that are going to play on the varsity, and maybe even some freshmen. But I think just trying to gauge, the kids and where they're at from a mental standpoint. I think it kind of I don't know if breath of fresh air is the right way to say it, but they seem really genuinely excited about where things are going, and not going to be an easy one, right? Playing Washington on Friday night, which has which really put a number on them last year, and has some pretty good players coming back. So I don't know what you guys thought, not to change the subject, but this little Ed Miles and Maurice Blue at Washington. These are the first two black head coaches in Metro football history, and they're matching up against each other. I think, as an aside, I think that's pretty cool. Maybe, don't you guys agree? Maybe it's nothing, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's great. You look at Jefferson's schedule. They open Washington City High next week, so it's they've got a couple toughies right out of the gate.
But I think opportunity there, right, KJ? Maybe you would agree. Ottumwa, I think, is a game that they could win, and maybe a couple others on the schedule. So just to get a win, something positive, I think would really help everything over there.
Yeah, but they do have a tough schedule overall. So when it comes down to it, that win column may not really show the progress, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Even if they walk away from the season without a win, it may not be indicative of kind of the growth that they may have, because you talk about them opening with Washington. I think Washington's going to be really good defensively. I've talking to Maurice Blue earlier. He really likes the skill guys they have, even though up front they're going to be kind of green. I kind of got a kick out of what he said when he mentioned they've graduated 900 pounds from the offensive line from last year. But they start out with Washington. Then they turn around and got City High. And you guys know City High is going to be a force this year. They have a game against Davenport Central. And then you got Kennedy, and then you got Lindmar. I think Waterloo West is okay. But, you get to that back half of the season, and if they kind of keep, the confidence up after, that first half of the season, it wouldn't be out of the question for them to, maybe get one against the Natoma or Waterloo West or Marshalltown, in those 3 weeks. And then, of course, they end with Southeast Polk, which is kind of a tough one. But, I really just kind of hesitate to put any kind of our success or how much we've gained is going to depend upon wins, because I think you'll see the progress even if it doesn't amount to wins yet. And I think the foundation is being set for better things in Jefferson history. The one thing I'll mention too is I remember doing a story on when Maurice Blue was hired as the head coach at Wash, and how significant it was that the Cedar Rapids Metro schools had a person of color as a head coach. The feeling I got from Mo was, yeah, that's great, but he didn't necessarily like that kind of emphasis on what he was doing. But they're mindful of, this is significant. It still amazes me that we've gone so long before this has actually happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That before 2022, we hadn't seen, a matchup of, head coaches that were people of color.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a milestone. It's something that's good. I mean, if you look at it now, the Cedar Rapids Community School District, 2 of their 3 head football coaches are people of color. And I think there's progress there. I think that's something that, it's their football coaches first, but, it is notable that we have, maybe we're seeing a more inclusive environment of leaders that aren't just are just white head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you,
More representative of the student body.
that's very true. That's very true, and that's something you talk about inclusion, and I think that's one example where there's progress, where things are being more inclusive, and it's a good thing.
For sure.
All right. Well, next topic, I guess. All 3 of us did our ballots for our Gazette preseason polls. Those have been going into the paper every day. Reps of St. Mary's was the player number 1. Class A was West Hancock, 1A US Sioux, 2A OAPCIG, 3A was Harlan, 4A Lewis Central, because they play each other on Thursday, and 5A, well, I guess I'll go ahead and spoiler alert now, but AKA will be our number 1 team in Class 5A. When you guys kind of did your research, did you see any area teams that you thought that maybe were a little bit down last year that you see making a really, really big leap this year?
Great question. Man, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think.
I can't find it. I know Anamosa did that a few years ago. They went from like 1-8 to 8-1 or 9-0 or something like that. I'm just to find a team that is going to make that was way down is going to make a big jump this year.
I was thinking. I don't know. Cascade kind of caught my eye a little bit, and they make the playoffs though last year, despite maybe a record under 500.
3-6. I think that's a team that could be quite a bit better.
Yeah,
Liberty was 3-6 last year. They could be better.
That's a good one.
Liberty was one that kind of stood out, where I think they have some talent to kind of flip that around, going from 3-6 to a 6-3.
Yeah.
And I think James Harris is a really good coach too. So second year of his, program, so to speak. So that's a good one, boys. That's a real good one.
I'd be really surprised if Iowa City West didn't make a big jump from 2-7. I would think they'd be they'd win at least 4 or 5 games this year, maybe.
Looking forward to KJ. You'll get to see Jack Wallace tomorrow night. He 6'3", 210, just a sophomore, starting quarterback last year as a freshman.
Right.
I think Kennedy isn't Jacob Doyle. I think might be their tailback. He's just a sophomore too. So a battle of maybe a couple of pretty good sophomores tomorrow night.
How will Kennedy fill the void that when the running back Jazon Williams went to Ankeny? How's that going to work? Do they have anybody that can fill that void?
That's a good question. JJ, you alluded to the fact that it might be Doyle that's at least kind of shouldering part of the load there for.
Yeah, I think that isn't that DJ's son, KJ.
Yes.
You played against DJ, right?
Yes, I did, and he was an extremely good athlete. That actually at one point he was calling out the screen passes that we were getting ready to run before we actually ran them in a game. I believe his senior year, where he picked one of them off and ran it back for a touchdown. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Sorry about that.
I've seen DJ a few events and stuff like that, so it's good to see him, and makes me feel old that his son's suiting up for Kennedy.
I went out and did my preseason feature on Williamsburg for my 2A story. We documented quite a bit last year that they started 0-3, 8 in a row, got to the Dome, finished 8-4. The same 3 games, same 3 opponents as last year's start: Regina, Van Meter, and Solon. My guess is that they don't go 0-3 again. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win 2 of those games. Not sure which 2, but I think this is a really good Williamsburg team, and they've got a ton of speed. And the funny thing I found out was that the fastest kid on the whole team is their nose guard. So, and Owen Douglas.
Yeah, Owen Douglas.
Yes. So, just your thoughts on Williamsburg. I think it's a team that certainly could get back to the Dome this year.
The thing about Williamsburg that I'll touch on, every year you look at what they have and what they graduate, and you think this is going to be a year where they might take a step back. And every year they seem to really kind of fill in those holes. And the thing that I really love about Williamsburg is they're one of those no ego teams, if this is going to make sense, and just follow me here, where they will go out and play teams that, might just kick their butt the first few weeks to prepare them for district play. And then we see an almost different team when they face different competition in district. They're willing to go out and play the toughest teams to start out with. We saw it the one year, didn't they go 0-3? Where they got beat by Western Dubuque, Solon, and Iowa City Regina out of the gate. And then from there on, they steamrolled everybody they faced, beat a couple ranked teams to get to the Dome. And at week 3, you thought, oh, this is going to be a year where, they're going to have to rebuild for the following season. And, they really do a great job of kind of developing players throughout the season. I mean, it's a testament to their coaching staff, and it's a testament to the players that they have and their ability to be coached and work hard throughout the season.
And, been a lot of talent going through that program too. When you look at
that helps too.
Yeah, Weisskopf's the latest one. Already committed to the University of Iowa, and he's just a junior, right? So, just a program, a true program, is going to be very good and competitive every single season.
Cedar Rapids Xavier, we haven't touched on them yet. Got to the state finals again, lost a triple overtime heartbreaker to Lewis Central in the finals. I was under the impression this time last year that this was a team that was going to be down, and they really, really surprised me. What was it, 11-2? I think at least my expectations are quite a bit higher this year than they were at this time. What are your thoughts on the Saints? Certainly look like a dome-worthy team again.
Yeah, KJ. I mean, I know how much you love Aiden McDermott as an athlete and a football player, and I got to think offensively, a lot of what they're going to do is got to be revolving around him, right?
I would think so. I mean, he's a playmaker for them. I really liked his athleticism, and you kind of saw them try to get the ball in his hands in various ways last year. The one thing that they had last year is Alex Neal really emerged as a really good quarterback and a playmaker for him. I think Brody Hoffman is kind of the next guy under center for them. Can he do the same thing? I mean, we'll find out against Western Dubuque. But he's got some weapons around him. You got Michael Cunningham coming back. The one thing too about Xavier that I think is always going to keep them competitive is what they do on the defensive side of the ball. You've got Thomas Sundell back. You've got McDermott back. You've got a good nucleus of defensive players back to kind of lead the way. And I think that's what's going to keep them always one of those top 5, top 10 teams. And then they'll just kind of develop what they need offensively. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with quarterback, and if they can get somebody to step up like Alex Neal did, and last season, especially in the postseason.
I think, guys, too, that one thing that always really aids Xavier is the numbers. I think I was counting everybody's roster numbers in the Metro yesterday, and Xavier's got, I think, between 55 and 60 kids again, which allows you to do a lot of two platoon, not have guys, maybe not as many guys or not many guys, play both ways, and that keeps you fresh. In my opinion, I guess. And I think that's a huge help. And that's just a credit to the program that, Coach Schulte's obviously built there, that everybody wants to play football there, contribute to success. And it can, that success just kind of builds off of itself every year.
Just one more thing about Xavier that I think is going to be a hole I'm interested to see fill is Tristan Vasquez. He wasn't necessarily somebody that really kind of jumped out at you when you think of Xavier, as one of their top players. But man, he was a big target. He always seemed to come up clutch for him, and he was a dang good kicker. I almost said something else, but he was a dang good kicker too. I think that's going to be somebody that might have been a little bit maybe underappreciated from people outside the program, that they're going to need somebody to kind of fill that role and be a big target, a big possession guy, somebody to come through, in key situations. And of course, we've seen them have good kicker after good kicker, but now they're going to need somebody to step in and continue that role as well.
A couple of Metro teams we haven't talked about yet. We'll hit on here quick. Seems like every year Cedar Rapids Prairie is pretty good, pretty darn good, and looks like they'll probably be that way this year. Probably a 6-3, 7-2 type team. What do you guys see out of the Hawks?
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. I lost some really, really good players. Obviously everybody knows Gabe Burkle is at Iowa State now. Um, you know, Brandon Vlicko was a tremendous athlete and leader at quarterback. So they'll need to find a quarterback. On the plus side, you got Mikkel Taylor at running back, who rushed for, I think, 1,100 yards or so last year. He's back. They're going to be big up front, as they always seem to be. Offensively on that line, that unbalanced line. So, and the numbers again, I think they're close to like 60 kids out on the varsity, and 100, and I think Coach Mark Bliss told me 140 in the program. 9 through 12. So, that's a lot of kids, and a lot of kids want to be a part of that program as well. That's a tribute to Coach, and tough schedule starting out. PV, Pleasant Valley, Cedar Falls, I think, is in the first 3 games. Southeast Polk again, early, if I remember.
That's about in October.
Okay.
Bettendorf is, I think, Bettendorf maybe.
Okay. But yeah, gonna have to find some solutions, I think, pretty early in the season with the schedule that Prairie has.
Yeah. They go to PV Friday, and then it's senior at home, at Cedar Falls, at Bettendorf, then Ottumwa Waterloo West at home, Southeast Polk there at Iowa City West, and Linn-Mar at home, which should be one of those games that the winner might get to host a first round game, and the loser might have to go on the road. It's kind of the way it went last year.
Yeah, and Linn-Mar with had a Renaissance type season last year under Coach Tim Lovell in his first year. So we'll see if the Lions can back things up for a second straight year. And not being able to play at home at least halfway for the first half of the season because of the turf issues at their stadium, and that just seems to follow poor Coach Lovell around. Remember at Marion, it's the same thing. A couple years ago with the derecho, destroyed Thomas Park, and they didn't have a place to play. So
yeah,
somebody needs to give that dude a 4-leaf clover, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So Linn-Mar will be playing its first home game at Prairie, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And three of their first 4 were on the road. So I guess if anything good came out of this whole thing with their turf, and that was it, that they only had to, at least for now, had to find one place to play a home game. So,
and Marion, they'll be playing at Thomas Park one more year. And Alex Moda going to be a quarterback this year.
Slot receiver. Yeah. That's he's going to be a receiver in college, which I think played a part in this decision. And quite frankly, he told me that he just went to his coaches and said, I'm not a quarterback. I'm not comfortable playing quarterback. I don't think I serve the team maybe as well being a quarterback. They've got a promising sophomore named Deers, I believe his name is. Big tall kid that apparently can fling it around pretty well. So they're going to try and get him the ball in space, Moda that is, which I think is where he's most effective. Don't you agree, KJ?
Yeah, I mean, that's I'm sure the reason why he was at quarterback was so the ball was in his hands and try to use his athleticism. Now, if you can try to spread things out and kind of isolate them, there aren't going to be a lot of players that are going to be able to man up on him one-on-one. So you're really kind of allowing him to kind of create some things by getting into space, and I'm assuming that's how he'll thrive, in this position and stuff.
And Clear Creek Amana right away, is that right? I think for Marion.
Yeah, they go down to Tiffin.
Boy, I think you brought it up, guys, about how important is that first game. How about that last year, right? Marion and Clear Creek, I think Marion led that game almost the whole way, and then Clear Creek found a way to win it in the end. Clear Creek Mana, went on to have a
was it
really,
like a
really
punt or
good season.
punt block or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CCA went on to have a really, really good season and a really good team, and Marion, didn't recover from that loss and didn't have a real good season. So it kind of goes back to what you guys were talking about a little earlier on the importance of the first game sometimes.
Yeah, if you can get that win, it really can propel you, and you hope you can kind of minimize the effect if you don't come out on top. But we talked about some of the tough schedules. We talked about Jefferson having a tough schedule. Marion, they're at Clear Creek Amana, then they have Cedar Rapids, Washington. Benton, which had a big season last year. Then you've got DeWitt Central, and of course, in the middle of their season, they've got Western Dubuque, Waverly Shell Rock, and Decorah. I think Waverly Shell Rock is going to be really good this year. Decorah was strong a year ago. I mean, Mason City's also in that schedule for Marion, and Mason City had kind of an eye-opening win against Western Dubuque last year in the postseason, I believe. So, kind of a tough slate for Marion, but we'll see how they kind of rise to that challenge here on Friday.
Yep.
So JJ, you'll be at Kinnick on Friday. KJ will be at, you got Kingston, right?
Yeah, I'm setting up shop all week at Kingston. So I'll have Kennedy and West on Thursday, and then I'll have Jeff and Wash, the East-West rivalry, on Friday night.
Okay, I'll be at Williamsburg for Regina and Williamsburg, and what a game I think is going to be terrific. From while you're sitting and watching the game and taking your stats and doing your Twitter and all that, you kind of be keeping an eye on, either area-wise, metro-wise, or statewide.
Good question. Man, that game, they kind of ruined it. Like KJ said, that game tomorrow night with St. Louis Central and Harlan.
Yeah.
That would be the one right off the top of my head that would have been great. Boy, I'm just kind of scrolling down here. Feel free to chime in, boys, while I'm looking here.
I'm just looking to see what's going on in Central Iowa with some of those teams. Let's see here. Webster City Humboldt. That'll be a pretty good one on Friday.
Dowling, Southeast Polk. There you go.
Southeast Polk and Dowling.
Yep.
Urbandale Johnson will be a pretty good game.
Think so.
Do Valley and Waukee Northwest play each other right away?
Yes, they do.
Cedar Falls and Johnston.
Yeah.
Another one. Kind of crossing Central Iowa, Eastern Iowa. Yeah, right off the bat, right, guys? Got some pretty good games going on statewide, so that's good.
In our area, somewhat in our area, one that I'm kind of intrigued about, just because I think a couple of them that I think could be kind of interesting. One, maybe New Hampton MFL. I think New Hampton might be a little bit improved.
I think we've got them at number 10 in 2A.
MFL's had some really good. They've got to replace the Mick brothers. What was it, Magoo and I'm blanking on the other player.
Shane.
Shane. Yep. They've got to replace those two. That one kind of is interesting. And then, for some reason, West Delaware and Wahlert. I think Wahlert might be a little improved from a year ago. And I think there's some big high expectations with West Delaware, but interested to see kind of where Wallert's at. coming into the season.
I'm looking, Wapsie Valley, Denver's another one that kind of catches my eye. I think a couple of really good teams up there, a little north of us, Waverly and Waukon. We'll see how Waukon rebuilds after losing so many really good players off last year's team. So, yeah, no shortage of good teams. Yeah, Northland Alburnett. There's another one. I think Alburnett will be a good team.
Yeah. So,
Class 5A, it's been, I think it's 12 years in a row now that Central Iowa has won the big school championship. Who would you say is the team most equipped to crash the party and maybe get into that Final Four or maybe get to the championship game? I guess right now I would say Pleasant Valley. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think the first thought is Pleasant Valley with the guys that they have coming back from last year. That was a team that did they play in the semifinals last year?
No, Pleasant Valley got beat by they were upset pretty early, weren't they?
Oh, okay.
If I remember right, maybe not.
City High was in the semis, but
Right.
Yeah.
Pleasant Valley with the team that they had coming back and the talent. I think I had them ranked highest out of the Eastern Iowa teams coming into this season. I had them number 2 behind Ankeny actually, and then City High. I think City High has a lot of talent. We know they've added some players from a year ago, and then you always have Ben Keeter, who's an outstanding athlete.
Superman. We just call him Superman.
I think we probably could. But I mean, he's got a heck of a motor, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think those are the first 2 teams that kind of come to mind. And then, we'll see how Kennedy kind of progresses a little bit. But they're also in the conversation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely Pleasant Valley leading the way with City High close behind.
Yeah, I would put those 2 probably the 1A and 1B in Eastern Iowa. And I think the next tier is probably Kennedy Prairie, maybe Linmar, Cedar Falls. It's probably how I would rate my KJ thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I was just looking here. Valley beat Pleasant Valley in the quarterfinals last year, 40-14. So I guess if that describes the gap between Eastern Iowa and Central Iowa, probably as well as anything, is that score in that game. So
yeah. All right. Closing thoughts. Anything last last thoughts of the week going into Thursday and Friday?
Well, hey, did you want to do the Survivor contest?
Yep, let's do that. So here's what we'll do. We'll say pick a game. At least one area team has to be, or one of the winner or loser has to be an area team that you're most sure of the outcome. And once you use those 2 teams, you can't use them again all season. And we'll see who can go the longest.
All right.
KJ, you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Sure. You say KJ or JJ?
KJ with a K.
Okay. I guess I'll start right out of the gate. I'll go with Washington over Jefferson.
Okay.
I'll be at that game. Jefferson folks can give me a hard time if they want, but I'll go with Washington as a lock out of the gate at Kingston.
JJ, you're up.
oh man, put the heat on. Dang, this is tough. Let's go. I'm gonna go Independence over Makokata.
Okay.
Kind of bizarre, but I'll stick with it.
Okay. I'll go Linmar over Muscatine.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, so
All right, so we're gonna
we
have
got
to
'em
keep
locked
track.
in and,
Is somebody
and
keeping track so we know we're not treading over old picks?
right there.
You got it. All right.
How about if we go,
That way, that way I can't cheat later. I'm probably the one that would cheat out of the three of us.
how about if we intersperse classes? Say you can't use the same class until you've already
That's
gone
fine.
through all the classes.
That's fine. We can do that.
That'll work.
Little kink in it. So
Yeah, I like that.
Sounds good. Well, I think with that, we'll call it a day. Thanks for everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And KJ will let you close.
All right. Like always, guys, keep your head on a swivel.